Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hello and welcome back to Unbound Season 2, The Weight of Truth. I am Beth. Hey. Today, I want to talk about the body positivity movement. Before you get your pitchforks ready, hear me out, okay? This isn't a hit piece. This is about what happens when something that saves you in one moment becomes the thing that keeps you stuck in the next. Okay? So I'm not totally ripping on it. You'll see. This is chapter 4 in the book, Welcome to Body Positivity Paradise. When I first discovered the body positivity movement as an adult, it felt like finding a fucking oasis in the desert of self-hatred I'd been wandering around in my whole life. Finally, someone was telling me I didn't have to hate myself. Finally, there were people saying my worth wasn't tied to a number on a scale. Finally, I had permission to stop the constant internal war I'd been fighting with my own body since I was a kid. And worse, I had permission to eat what I wanted. Because I was supposed to love me as me, and the world was too. The body positivity movement also gave me something I desperately needed at that moment. Permission to breathe. Permission to stop the relentless self-abuse that had become my background soundtrack. Permission to exist in my body without constantly apologizing for taking up space. And for a while, that breath felt like salvation. I started following accounts that celebrated fat bodies. I read posts about health at every size, and your weight doesn't determine your worth. I shared memes about loving yourself unconditionally and rejecting diet culture. I bought clothes that fit in my body a little bit better instead of hiding in tent-sized shirts. I even started saying things like, I'm learning to love my body exactly as it is. The relief was immediate and intoxicating. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't spending every waking moment thinking about how much I hated myself. The constant mental chatter of self-criticism got turned down from a scream to a whisper. I could actually focus on other things because I wasn't using all my mental energy to beat myself up. This movement gave me a moment to breathe and stop hating myself long enough to actually think clearly. And that clarity, that's what eventually saved my life. Because do you know what nobody talks about in all those body positive posts? There's a difference between stopping the self-hatred and actually feeling at peace. There's a difference between giving yourself permission to exist and giving yourself permission to thrive. I thought I was practicing self-love, but what I was actually practicing was comfortable avoidance. See, here's how what I call deja vu, same BS, different day, was working in my life during those early body positive days. The facts. I weighed almost 400 pounds. My knees hurt. I got winded walking upstairs. I couldn't fit in airplane seats. I avoided social situations because I was embarrassed. My old thoughts. I'm disgusting. I'm worthless. I'll never change. I should just accept that this is who I am. The body positive thoughts I adopted. My weight doesn't define me. I deserve love at any size. Health comes in all sizes. Society's beauty standards are bullshit. Both sets of thoughts were reactions to the same facts, and both created different feelings, actions, and results. The old thoughts made me feel hopeless, so I'd eat to numb the pain, which made me gain more weight and feel worse about myself. The new body positive thoughts made me feel, well, that's where it gets more complicated. They made me feel relieved, accepted, like I could finally stop fighting a battle I'd been losing my whole life. But they didn't make me feel peaceful. They didn't make me feel healthy. They didn't make me feel like the person I actually wanted to be. And they definitely didn't make me stop with the self-destructive habits I was used to. Because deep down underneath all the body positive mantras I was repeating, my gut was telling me something different. My gut was telling me that these thoughts weren't actually true for me. My gut was telling me that saying I'm healthy at any size, while I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without getting winded, was a steaming pile of bullshit. My gut was telling me that accepting my 400-pound body wasn't self-love, it was giving up. But I ignored my gut because the body positive movement had taught me that listening to that voice was internalized fat phobia or diet culture programming. I was told that wanting to change my body meant I didn't really love myself. I was told that any discomfort with my size was society's fault, not a valid signal from my own body. So I spent years in this weird limbo where I wasn't actually actively hating myself anymore, but I also wasn't actually happy. I was comfortable, but it was the kind of comfort you feel when you've given up on your dreams. It was the comfort of low expectations and settled mediocrity. I was miserable too, very miserable. The body positivity movement had given me permission to stop fighting, but what I really needed was permission to want more. I needed permission to acknowledge that while my worth as a human being wasn't determined by my weight, my quality of life absolutely was. I needed permission to admit that health at every size might be true for some people, but it wasn't true for me at this weight. I needed permission to say that loving my body might actually mean taking better care of it, not just accepting whatever was happening to it. The body positivity movement served its purpose for me. It caught me when I was falling into complete self-destruction, even though it didn't stop it entirely. It just helped me justify my behavior. It gave me a place to land when the alternative was Googling ways to die. It taught me that I didn't have to earn my right to exist. But it was never supposed to be my final destination. It was supposed to be a rest stop, not a permanent address. The problem is, I got so comfortable in that rest stop that I almost forgot I was on a journey at all. Real talk questions. What relief did body positivity give you? Be honest, there probably was some. Don't skip this question if, or just because, you're pissed at the movement too. What did it actually give you that you needed at the time? For me, it was permission to stop the constant self-hatred. What was it for you? What part of you was grateful to stop fighting? Fighting yourself is exhausting. There's probably a part of you that was relieved when someone told you it was okay to just accept things as they are. That relief is valid, but is it still serving you? Where's the line between self-acceptance and self-harm? This is the big one. When does accepting your body become giving up on your health? When does self-love become self-neglect? Your gut knows the answer, even if your brain wants to argue about it. This is a permission slip exercise. Write yourself permission to want more than just accepting your current situation. Here's mine. I give myself permission to want more than just existing in this body. I give myself permission to want to feel strong, healthy, and capable. I give myself permission to believe that taking care of my body is an act of self-love, not self-hatred. I give myself permission to outgrow movements and ideas that no longer serve me, even if they helped me once. Now write yours, or use mine, but you have to say it out loud, right now. And if you use mine or come up with your own, don't you dare feel guilty about it. Truth bomb. The body positivity movement isn't evil and it's not wrong. For some people, at some stages of their journey, it's exactly what they need. But if you're reading this book, you're probably ready for something more. You're probably ready to stop resting and start moving again. And that's not betraying self-love. That's evolving into it. Okay, so this chapter is definitely going to piss some people off, and I'm okay with that. Because the thing is, I'm not saying body positivity is bad at all, and I am wholly against diet culture. You'll see. I'm saying that it saved me from one kind of death while almost delivering me to another one, if that makes sense. When I first found this movement, I was in crisis. I was actively suicidal. I was drowning in self-hatred so deep, I could barely see daylight. And then, seeing someone say your worth isn't determined by your weight, like for the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe. That message at that time was completely essential. It was life-saving. It gave me enough relief from the constant mental torture that I was putting myself through to actually function. So I am not here to trash the movement or pretend it doesn't serve a real purpose for people who are where I was. But, and this is a big but, there's a massive difference between you don't have to hate yourself and you should never want to change. There's a difference between your worth isn't determined by your weight and your health isn't affected by your weight. Okay? But somewhere along the way, the body positivity movement stopped distinguishing between those things. I started hearing that any desire to lose weight was internalized fat phobia. What the hell? that wanting to change my body meant I didn't truly accept myself, that physical discomfort wasn't valid because it was just society's programming telling me that I should be smaller. What in the world? Like, seriously. My body was actually telling me other things, because my knees were hurting and I was tired all the time and I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. I was uncomfortable in my own skin, not because society told me to be, but because my body was literally struggling to function under the weight that I was carrying. That deja vu concept I mentioned, same bullshit, different day. That's what was happening. I went from one set of lies to another set of lies. Both were kind of designed to keep me from facing the truth. The old lies said I was worthless and disgusting. And then the new one said I was perfectly fine and shouldn't want anything different. But the truth is, somewhere in the middle. The truth was that I had inherent worth and, I'm a human being, regardless of my size, and my quality of life was being destroyed by my weight, Both things could be true at the same time. That is possible, This movement gave me what I needed when I needed it most, thank God. It stopped the free fall. It was the net that caught me before I hit rock bottom. But once I landed in that net, I kind of made it home, right? And we don't want to do that. I should have used it as a launching pad to somewhere better, but I just kind of hung out there for a little while. And I got really comfortable in the discomfort. And I learned to numb out the voice in my gut that was telling me something was wrong, I surrounded myself with people and content that just reinforced the idea that wanting more was betraying the movement and myself and other fat people. And that's when that acceptance kind of became a cage for me. The permission slip exercise, that's real work because, so many of us have been taught that wanting to change our bodies is some kind of moral failing, that we're not truly enlightened or self-accepting if we want to be healthier, stronger, more capable, and able to do shit in life. What I learned, though, is that, real self-love sometimes looks like discipline, and that's okay. Self-acceptance sometimes means accepting that where you are isn't where you want to stay. I think real body positivity means listening to what your body is actually telling you, right? Not just what the movement says you should believe. Like I've always said and always talked about, I hate being told what to do and I hate just believing what I'm being fed. I always want to ask more questions and I want to learn more and I want to know more and I want to be more. And I just, I don't know. And God, the names I'm called for being that way. Anyway, I didn't betray the body positivity movement when I decided to lose the weight. I didn't betray myself either. I just evolved. I took what served me and left what didn't. And that includes people. And that's what you're allowed to do too. If body positivity helped you stop hating yourself, that's beautiful. Honor that. Absolutely. But if you're ready for more and if you're ready to move from just existing to actually thriving, you don't need anyone's permission except your own. The movement taught me that I didn't have to earn my right to exist. And now I'm teaching myself that I do get to fight for the life that I actually want to live. It's not betrayal, it's growth. Before I go, if you want to discuss this episode with others, there's a Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. All my content is free and always will be. If you want to support the production costs, I've got a coffee at ko-fi.com Unbound podcast where you can contribute any amount once or monthly. I also accept e-transfer or PayPal. Just reach out for details. Thank you so much for being here, especially if this chapter made you uncomfortable. That discomfort might be telling you something important. Listen to your gut. Always listen to your gut. See you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit author.bethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/Unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.